Hello and welcome to our latest webinar in the series, Planning Analytics Updates. My name is Brendan Austin. I'm the Director of the Financial Performance Management team at LPA Software Solutions. And today we're going to be going through a lot of the changes that have been just released to Planning Analytics and Planning Analytics Workspace. So talking about what's been released as of today, um, Planning Analytics 2092, TM1 Web is no longer included in the release, the base install, but it's still available in a separate installation program called IBM Planning Analytics Spreadsheet Services Installer. So if you are going to upgrade to this latest version that we're going to be talking about today on premise, you will also need to download that additional install package to get the TM1 Web piece to continue to work. Also in PA 209, they've added dynamic shaping and images so that you can actually create shapes and images on your web sheets, and they will change in size based upon the data that's assigned to those. That's kind of a cool feature. Also, in 209, web sheets open now to the tab in which they were saved when they were uploaded to the server. So whatever tab you have active when you hit publish, that's the tab on the web sheet that will open as the default. The TM1 Operations Console has been deprecated. The Analytics Administration window is now used instead of the Operations Console. So these changes have been kind of in progress for quite a while now. They are actually now available. Mid-October is when they became available on premise. For the cloud, it's still forthcoming. It'll be in version 59, I believe, for the cloud. And the projected release date for that is end of fourth quarter, beginning of first quarter 2021. Talking about these updates, it's really in kind of four areas. The first thing is mainly Workspace. The welcome and navigation pages are completely changed. That's called the new experience in Workspace. And we'll do a demo here a little bit later to actually show you kind of what that looks like. I've also got a bunch of screenshots as well to go through all the different screens and how you navigate through. You also have plans and applications. So that's the new workflow engine that is now built into Workspace. We'll go over that as well. The biggest thing I think is the AI forecasting. So now Planning Analytics is fully integrated with an artificial intelligence forecasting module that comes right out of the box. So we'll actually go and create several different models and pick the best one and then forecast your data automatically. And we'll do a demo on that. And then finally, the dashboarding and charting. The dashboarding and charting is much more user-friendly, much easier to work with, and much more like Cognos Analytics. So starting off with the new layout, the new web front end is a whole new unified experience for all reporting, analytics, modeling, and administration. So it's really intended for a one-stop shop for all users to come and interact with the data and the model. You can now organize the content in lists. You can make favorites, etc., and we'll go through that in a minute. And you can now display images. So you can attach images to books, make it a little bit more visually appealing. As you'll see in the screenshot on the left, we've got different images for different books that we've published out there. The navigation and welcome banner. So when you now log in with the new experience, you have a welcome screen, which you can customize. There's a demo button there that you can click on it and get a demo of Planning Analytics Workspace for your new users. If you do not want to see that any longer, you can actually turn that off on a user-by-user basis. The quick launch areas are now split into 4 different major areas within Planning Analytics Workspace. You get applications and plans, that's where you can have your workflow, your plans, your budget, etc. Reports and analysis. So that's the old Planning Analytics Workspace content, whether they were dashboards or just reports or visualizations there. The data and models is where you can actually go and make modifications to your TM1 servers, and then administration, where you can actually start and stop services, etc., and look at the logs. Workflow. So we talked a little bit about workflow. Yes, it is finally available in Planning Analytics Workspace. And it is a huge improvement over the old contributor workflow. The old workflow had a lot of issues with it. Number one is it was based on an organizational hierarchy. So you were constrained to just doing nodes up one hierarchy. That hierarchy had to look a certain way, etc. So you've got a lot more flexibility. You don't have to use a dimension in one of your cubes now to do that. The value is solely in the submission, review, and approval of data. So, basically you didn't get a whole lot more out of contributor other than that. Again, you were using a single dimension to govern the assignments to each node, and that was not realistic. So the new workflow gives you a lot more flexibility there. And it's very security heavy. If you ever looked at the control cubes behind the scenes and all of the processes that executed every time you either took possession of a node or approved a node, etc., there was a lot going on behind the scenes that could get messed up pretty easily. And that's all been corrected as well. This is what the new workflow screen could look like. The basic core is there. Up at the top, you get the name of your plan. And then you can have different planning processes or sprints in them. So we've got to verify historicals, enter revenue and expenses, and enter projected balances. We can open and close those sprints individually. They don't have to, it's not a all or none thing. We can have different due dates on each sprint, and we can either require submission or not on each sprint. And the system is tracking the progress of each sprint within each plan. So it gives us a lot more visibility into what's going on. In the middle, kind of shows you which books, web sheets, and views are attached to that sprint. So you can see, what's actually in there. And you actually have the ability now to send out automated email from the Workspace engine, or type an announcement down at the bottom. So when they log in, your users log into the plan, they'll actually see those announcements. If you need to send out an email to all of the users, you can actually do that through this front end as well. So kind of as an overview, you can allow users to add views, PAW books, worksheets into Planning Analytics sprints. The sprints can be opened and closed individually. The section can have a different deadline and submission requirement. The progress is measured for each sprint individually. And we do have the integration for email messaging. With the due dates for each sprint, there is now a date picker kind of behind the scenes. So no more trying to figure out what the right format of the date is. In there, you can actually pick from a calendar. So you can fast forward or reverse or whatever and pick an individual day. And then you can also type in the announcements on that main screen too. The built-in email notification, this is an example of the automatic email that would come out based upon generating a new plan and to notify the groups. So that is now built in. You don't have to create a separate email program to interface with, say, Outlook. To do that, that's now built in. When the plan participants log in, this is actually the layout that they would see. So on the left-hand side, they see the different sprints of the plan. And when they pick on the different pieces, in this case, we picked income statement, they actually see the income statement template on the right-hand side. And it still gives them they go in and make the changes just like they did before. Or like they would through Workspace or what have you, and then they can submit. Going back to the new navigation for Workspace, under reports and analysis, this is the way it looks now. So rather than having the data or the assets that you create listed in books and templates, it's now listed in a list format, and it's grouped together by shared, my content, favorites, and recents. The favorites and recents are new. That's where you can kind of bookmark things that you want to go back to. Recents are things that you've opened recently. So just like in Windows or Excel, when you go to a file, it actually kind of hyperlinks those to a separate area. But the content is all stored by name. So you can sort it by name now. You can search by name, etc. It's a little bit easier to find things with it sorted this way. And then you can go in and tag the things that um, are your favorites right from here. You do have some built-in filters at the top. So where you can look at the titles of published items. And that's where you can mark them as favorite to create the shortcut to. So talking a little bit about Workspace and the display options now. So you'll notice when you get into the new Planning Analytics Workspace 57 version, which is what we're talking about today, you have a bunch of different options now for charting, overall just display. It's a lot more user-friendly, and we're going to go through those now. So talking about the formatting options, you can now align and position objects on the screen. You can align and group multiple objects together. And you can have sheet and tab options to mimic presentation mode. Another big thing is you optimize the screen size, ratio, and zoom. And this is huge if you're going to use Planning Analytics Workspace on mobile devices. You may want to change that screen size, ratio, and zoom so that it displays best on iPads and or cell phones. Before, with Workspace, you really didn't have any control over that at all. It was what it was. Also, some additional formatting options. You can right-click on the objects, pick what page size it is. So you've got custom 16 by 9, 4 by 3, letter, legal, etc. So you've got some snap grids. A lot of the options that you've got in Cognos Analytics are now available on the Planning Analytics side as well. Another big thing is the custom color palette. So before with Workspace, you had a limited number of colors that you could work with. You couldn't really create your own colors, and you couldn't create your own palette. Now you've got an infinite number of combinations that you can create. You actually have a color wheel to pick your colors from, and you can choose different palettes, and those are user defined. So each user can create their own palette and save those palettes across multiple books, views, etc. Within Workspace. So more on the actual charting format. So people that are developing reports can now customize the axis points on those charts by putting labels, repositioning the axis, changing the scale through that axis. Additional options, you can also change the font size, and actually put values on the chart itself. So these are huge things that were missing from Workspace before, and gives a lot more flexibility to that front end for creating feature-rich reports. We also have some new chart types. A bunch of my customers have been asking for years for waterfall chart. Well, there is now one available, as well as box plot, multi-line, and multi-line column. Data is now assigned to bars and sections, and you can show data directly on the chart as well. The chart editor, if you look at it, you right-click on that chart, you actually get the menu on the right-hand side that we're looking at. So you get all different types of things that you can change for that chart visualization. Again, very much like Cognos Analytics, in the flexibility that you've got with this. With the custom axis lines, you can change the axis scale. Um, so a lot of times, in the past, I've been trying to create workspace visualizations, and if you've got different data points, and just the scaling is completely different between those data points, it's very hard to get that on a chart so that it's meaningful. You can actually change that scale now, change the starting point, max point, etc. Um, you can also change the color palette and the font specifics on that axis as well. So the big thing with this release, I think, and the thing that I think is getting the most noise is the artificial intelligence addition to Planning Analytics and the integration with that tool set. It's one thing to do a forecast, and trying to come up with those numbers for next year when there's so many different factors behind the scenes that contributed that. And sometimes, doing a budget or a forecast for a future period is kind of like looking at a crystal ball. It's take your best guess, put your finger up in the wind and try to figure out what's going on. Um, this tool actually helps you put some statistical modeling behind that without needing to have that type of background feature. So why AI? Well, first thing, accuracy. Statistical models based on historical data uh, improves the accuracy of predictions of forecasted periods. It's consistent. So if you apply a model to future periods across the board, you're going to get a lot more consistent results. And timeliness. This is something that can be done in seconds now. So you may want to, push out a budget to your users and then create an alternate version of it using AI and see where the differences are, and end up, looking and seeing at the end of the year which one was more accurate. Um, and you have something else to measure against. Um, so this first iteration of AI forecasting in PA is based on time series predictions. So it's looking at things across time periods. There's minimal data movement involved. You can actually copy or create a prediction within an existing scenario, or you could um, save that prediction to a separate scenario if you want to, so that it's segregated. You can embed predictions in existing scenarios. Um, and basically, you're guiding people through the advanced forecasting operation. So, not everybody's got a crystal ball. Not everybody may be able to predict what the future is. Maybe the best thing that they got is what last year's actuals was. AI, this AI piece will actually look at that and analyze it and try to figure out the best um, forecast for the future. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the demo of the actual AI forecasting piece, and we'll jump right over there. Over to our Planning Analytics Workspace demo environment here. You'll notice that the welcome page here in Workspace looks very different. Here we're looking at the top, which we see the banner, which can be hidden if you want to. And there's also a link to a demo environment here. To hide the banner, you simply click on the X and we'll say remove. And now we're back to our quick launch area that we talked about before. We've got our applications and plan area, reports and analysis, data models and administration. And down below, you'll see, we've got links to content here. I'm going to jump right to my financial planning book that I've created in the past. And we're going to go in and try to forecast our 2021 forecast within this model. So you'll notice that we've got some new buttons up here, look a little bit different. Again, if you arrow over them, it kind of tells you what you're going to do. But what we want to do on this page is we want to create a 2021 America's forecast, and we want to create a forecast high and a low, and we want to look and see what the statistical data is kind of behind that forecast and how it kind of figured that out. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the data that's out there now. So I'm going to drop the version down, and we can see that for 2020 we have an actuals, budget, and a forecast. For 2021 we've got a budget, and that's it. And so we want to actually populate the forecast high and forecast low, with a predicted artificial intelligence forecast. So I'm going to throw that version back up top just to simplify the view a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select what I want to actually forecast. So I'm going to select Americas. Up in the top menu bar, I've got a new forecast icon, and I'm going to click on that, and it'll open up the forecast menu. It's got two tabs in it. One is to set up the forecast, and the second one is advanced options. So I'm going to start with updating the setup first, and I'm going to pick the starting period for my forecast. So I want to actually forecast January 21. And I want to end the forecast in December 21. And you can either pick it or you can type it in. And if I scroll down, I can save the statistical details as comments. So in the first period that it actually forecasts, it will actually save the statistics associated with that prediction. And I do want to save that. And if I scroll down, and then if I go to advanced, I come over here. You have a seasonality checkbox. If you want the system to look at the seasonality of the data for the historicals that it's looking at to try to put into the model, then you go ahead and check that on. If not, if you want to ignore that, you can. If you want to ignore a particular date range, you can pick that date range here. The confidence level is set by 95% as the default. You have a couple different options here. This is basically going to choose the model that has got at least 95% probability or reliability when it calculates. So I can change that option if I want to. And then down below, I can choose where do I want that forecast to be stored. Okay, so I'm going to choose to store it in the version dimension, and I want to choose the version hierarchy, and I want it to store that in the forecast. And then if I come down, if I want a high and a low, within the range, I can pick the upper bound and lower bound. So I'm going to choose forecast high and forecast low for those. I'm going to go ahead and save my options that I've got for my forecast. And I've got a preview button down here, which I'll do first. It's going to throw this through the statistical model, and you notice how fast that happened. What it's looking at is the historical details that we've got in the TM1 database already. The dotted numbers off to the right are my forecasted periods. So this is how it's kind of plotted the data going forward. If I look at the statistical details, I can actually look and see all the different the values that it's come back for all the different statistical models. So you can look at that. Here it says my prediction accuracy is actually high. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and I'm going to go ahead and click the forecast button. And when I do that, it basically goes through that iteration again and actually writes it to the cube. Now you notice I've now got 2021 data. If I expand that out, it actually goes down to the month level. And you'll see that I've got a comment here on January 21. If I right click, I can actually look at those comments and look at the statistical summary for how it created that information. What the confidence level is, what the trend was, the accuracy, the seasonality, etc. So if I want to look at that information and analyze that, I can. And then if I come back and shrink this down just so that I can see a little bit more of the data, we're going to look at the versions that we've got populated, and then we're going to zero suppress the rows and columns. So I can actually look and see for 2021, I now have a forecast of 478 to 14 across all the units for all my products. Forecast high is 573 and a low is 382. Um, so, if that's the forecast that I want to go forward with, that's great. And I can. Okay. So now we're going to jump back to the presentation real quick, go over a couple of few items at the end. We'll have some time for Q&A at the very end. So we're getting this question a lot. How do I get this new version? So for cloud customers, it's not available quite yet. So sometime in the late fourth quarter, possibly early first quarter, this will be released as an update. Your administrators can go in once it's released, and it's with version 58 within the cloud. They can click preview in Workspace under the administrator area. You can test it. And once the administrator determines that they actually want to upgrade, they click on the upgrade button. Once you upgrade an environment, you cannot go back. So it's imperative, especially on cloud customers, that you do this in dev first. You test all of your old Planning Analytics Workspace materials that you've got. Make sure that your dashboards, reports, etc., are working properly before you actually upgrade. So again, I can't emphasize it enough. Do it in dev first, then upgrade, then possibly test and prod, and then upgrade prod. For on-premise customers, you guys lucked out. This is one of the very few times that they've actually updated the local software before the cloud software. It is available now. You can download it from IBM Fix Central. It's PAW version 57. Again, if you're doing the install, tell whoever is downloading the software they also need the spreadsheet service, which is a separate installer package. It's still in the same bundle, but it is a separate install now for the workspace. I've done this Planning Analytics workspace install myself locally, and I can say that the install process is much easier than it has been in the past. There's fewer extra things that you've got to do to get Workspace up and running now. So for cloud customers, again, this is what it will look like once it's available. Under the administration area, you'll get a button that says Preview New Experience. Again, the administrators are the only ones that can see that button and or click it. So once you do preview it and migrate to it, you can't go back. We would suggest previewing books first. So any books that you have published, this is kind of the look and feel of what those books would look like, the navigation with the buttons, etc. And go ahead and bring up all your books and make sure that they are all working before you actually flip that switch. Some considerations to take into play before you actually upgrade. So a few things to consider before you actually do upgrade. There are some features that are not supported in this initial new Planning Analytics Workspace experience. Number one is metrics, charts, and scorecarding are not supported. So if you have any of those diagrams or charts that you've created with metrics on them, scorecards, a strategy map, etc., those are not going to come up in the new experience. So maybe something to consider about before you upgrade to that if you're using those. may want to wait until the next iteration and see if they're supported at that point. Tree map visualizations upgrade successfully except when more than one dimension is present on an axis, in which it's converted to an exploration when you upgrade. So it's something to take into consideration. The reports and analysis landing page does not display individual tiles for books, views, or web sheets. Rather, the reports and analysis landing page displays a searchable and sortable list of all assets. Mobile devices are not fully supported in this initial new release. So even though you've got some of the capabilities to actually publish, your web sheets to scale them properly for mobile devices, this initial release is not supported by mobile devices yet. An administrator cannot set up a global color palette. If you click Share Export, you cannot share a book or view as an image or PowerPoint document. You can export as PDF with enhanced print options, though. And then the intent bar is not available in this release. So that's the bar at the top where you can actually type in the natural language question at the top. That's not available yet. So differences between the old Planning Analytics workspace and the new experience. Chats are now deprecated. From what I hear, a lot of clients weren't using those chats within Workspace. I'm not sure if they will be brought back in future releases or not. Bookmarks and history are no longer available. Instead, you have recents and favorites, which replace those. And collections have been changed to pins. So you can pin a view or web sheet from a book, and then you can access the pinned items from the pin button while in the edit mode. So we'd like to send out an offer to anybody watching this webinar. If you're considering upgrading, whether you're on the cloud or on premise, we will give you up to a 2-hour evaluation, reviewing your existing cloud environment to see potentially what would migrate to the new, if there would be any implications to migrating the workspace part. And then if you're on premise, we'd spend up to 2 hours reviewing your on-premise environment to see what it would take to get either workspace up and running or workspace converted to the new environment, as well as see if there's any content in there that potentially would not work. If you are interested in this offer, please email us at marketing@lpa.com, and we'd love to help you out. So we've got some time for some question and answers. I think there's probably more questions than what we can actually handle during the webinar. If I don't get to your question, we will follow up with you within the next day with an email answer. So the first question I've got is, can I use the new AI forecast feature without upgrading the PAW experience? The answer is no. That AI feature is really built into PAW right now. So to actually use that at this juncture, you're going to have to upgrade PAW to get that functionality. I'm not sure if that will also be added at some point to PAX as well, independently. Although PAX and PAW are very integrated, kind of behind the scenes. And I have a feeling that PAW will be generating all of that content behind the scenes, and I have a feeling that you're going to have to upgrade PAW in the future. Can I adjust manually the amounts coming back from the AI forecast? Absolutely. When you store that AI forecast as a scenario, it becomes just another scenario in your data. So you can go in and massage that. The comments associated with that AI forecast will stay, but then you could go in and then adjust it up or down. You could do spreading on top of it, etc. You can add your own comments as well. So becomes just another data point. It's not locked in any way from users updating it. Of course, you could, security-wise, lock that down. The administrator can go in and lock that down very easily. Okay. Um, Again, if you have any other questions, please, we'll get back to you with your answers. Um, just to kind of finish up, how can LPA help? As most of you know, we are an IBM Premier Platinum Business Partner. We do upgrade and migration services. We do managed services where we can actually come in and manage your either Cognos Analytics or Planning Analytics environment. We also do health checks. So, whether you're on cloud or on premise, we'll actually come in, look at how everything's set up, look at your hardware, look at your rules and feeders, etc. Give you suggestions on how to improve performance. And then we also do training, both web training, um, as well as specific, customer-based training as well. So if you have, 4 or 5 users that want a training class on your data, we can definitely do that. We can customize the training materials to do that. We have administration on the planning analytics side, administration, developer, end user, and workspace beginner and workspace developer. Again, we can meld those classes together and come up with custom content as well based on your environment. Really appreciate your time today, and thank you very much. And again, if you had any questions that we didn't address, we will be following up with you shortly. Thank you.